Welcome to the Monday Monologue and SD70 world. Got the new one built. We have our vintage one that we've restored. We wrapped up the video series on both of these, and next week we're going to drop a video doing a objective test using our audio analyzer suite to compare the performance of the 60-year-old version versus the new production kit. And I think that's going to be some really exciting stuff. So we'll get that out soon. And as you can see, I just got all the stuff on my bench here from my testing. And so I just thought I'd leave this here and leave it for the Monday Monologue. So a couple of things for this week's video. Somebody sent me a really interesting article about hi-fi audio in the vinyl versus digital whole thing. And I know we've been down that rabbit hole before, but they made a point that I'm not sure that a lot of the time that it is actually the difference in what they sound like, or is it the difference in our mindset when we're listening to it? And let me kind of explain what I mean there. I feel like that people listen to audio for different reasons, or listen to music for different reasons. And I feel like that sometimes you can get too wrapped up in what you're listening to rather than why you're listening to music. One of the things that I find when I'm listening to vinyl is it's more of a meditative kind of experience where I put aside some time during the day to, warm up the amp, get the vinyl out, and get me a soft drink there at the couch with me, and, make sure Dolly's fed and everything so she won't be bothering me, and then lay down on the couch, put the music on, and then lay down on the couch, have the lights kind of down low, and just close my eyes, and just try to unwind. And just really fall into the music and not listen thinking, hey, do I like this or not? Do I want to switch to another channel? Is this, all that kind of stuff that you might do if you're streaming. Like, I know what the album that I'm going to put on sounds like. This isn't like auditioning the music. This is picking out some music that I know I like for this period of time to just relax and just clear my thoughts, clear my brain. And to me, that's a very different experience than if you're on your phone with a streaming app and you got their system on and you're scrolling through looking for some new music that you might like. Or what do I want to listen to today? Something starts up, I don't want to hear that. Click, click, click. And you may not even listen to a whole song or more than one. And then you're clicking on your phone trying to get something else, trying to find the perfect music rather than enjoying the experience. And it's so easy, even with a CD, that you put the media in, you're listening to it, and the song comes on that's part of that album. It's like, man, I don't really like that song. You just click and you go past it. Well, on vinyl, you're not going to do that. You're not likely to get up, lift the needle, move it over a track, and set it back down. You're going to listen to the whole album side. And to me, like I said, it's just a different experience. And it's kind of like, I was trying to explain this to a friend of mine. It's kind of like we all have people we know that when you're in person talking with them, you can tell most of the time they're not listening to anything you're saying. They're thinking about what they're going to say when you pause. And that similar kind of thing can happen when you're listening to streaming or even, like I said, a CD, that you're thinking about, do I really like this music or do I want to switch to something else? And your brain is thinking about other things other than focusing on the music. And you miss all the little nuances and the cool stuff that a really nice sounding system can deliver because you're not focused on the music. And I don't want to spend too much time on that, but just think about that a little bit, about how that maybe it's as much a state of mind as it is the actual media or the source that you're using. And you could do the same thing with streaming, but just like pick an album and put it on and just put your phone down and just think about the music and enjoy it. So anyway, that's enough for my little psychology lesson today. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was I want to add some new stuff to the channel that makes it more interactive. And one of the things I'd like to do is a weekly show and tell. You guys are building some really cool stuff. And like this guy built one of my phono stages as a rack mount thing. And then like here's a 300B amp. There's some KT88 amps that folks have built. And just a couple of other projects that folks have sent me pictures of. And found some of these on the forum. I know some of y'all have sent me pictures and emails in the past that I unfortunately didn't archive. And so I'm not sure I could dig all those up. So I'd like to start a new thing on the channel. And my current email address is below. stephe@skunkydesigns.com. Send me pictures of your projects and I'll feature them on the channel. And you'll get to see your beautiful creations on my YouTube channel. Because y'all have built some really cool looking stuff. And some of it's a lot cooler than the stuff that I've been building. My stuff's kind of, it's kind of plain. And you guys have done a lot of stuff with cool woodworking and, you know, different materials and colors and stuff that I think is really cool. So that's something I want to get started. The other thing I want to get started is, and I'm kind of stealing this from Paul at PS Audio, and this is kind of what he does on his whole channel. He doesn't do a whole lot of other stuff besides this, but he reads letters sent to him. And I'd love for you guys to send me like a question and do like a Q&A, because I don't think I'm ever going to do a live stream thing. I mean, I think that's just not really in my wheelhouse. And some of that is like, you know, super chats and, you know, the people that pay to play to get their questions answered and all that. And I get other, you know, channels really like doing those live views or live streams, and some people like watching those. That's just not my thing. But I would love to do a Q&A thing. So email me your questions and I'll go through and pick one and we'll kind of do a question of the week thing on the Monday Monologue. I think that would be fun. So another cool thing that I've got coming up, and I was really excited about this because I've been trying to get my streaming set up like something that I can enjoy. And I've really struggled with that. Because I tried like a Topping E70, which gets really good reviews as far as measuring great and all that. And it just didn't really do much for me. And my Yamaha CD deck, it's C300 or something. I'll put the link below. It's a nice sounding CD deck. And it's got a nice DAC, and just the analog output of it sounds really good. Now that natural sound button, it makes it sound weird, but just the plain output of it sounds nice. But it still doesn't really grip me like my vinyl setup does. So I saw this new Topping Centaurus, I think is how you pronounce it. It's a ladder DAC. It's the first one they've ever done that's that R2R ladder DAC kind of thing. And they partnered with the Holo Audio folks. And I looked at their DAC too. And I was kind of on the fence about which one I wanted to get because they were both very similar price point. And the topping had some features that I liked. I liked the ability to turn off the oversampling or be able to adjust that, where the holo just has no oversampling. And then the topping also has like some kind of parametric EQ kind of a thing that you can totally bypass too. So you can make it just a straight up DAC, or you can like add these other kind of sonic filters to it. And I just thought that since you can turn that stuff off, it would kind of be nice to have those tools in case that was what I needed. And so just got that last week. And that really convinced me on this whole burn-in thing. And I know a lot of folks say that that's snake oil. There's no way that electronics need to be burned in. But guys, I'm telling you, when I first hooked that DAC up, it was thinned. Didn't sound as good as my CD deck because I could A-B between the two. And the bass seemed real shallow and just not, I don't know. It just didn't have it wasn't a very rich sounding device. And I played with the different settings and tried, sampling, non-oversampling, and all this stuff while it was fresh. And the non-oversampling sounded better, but it still just didn't. I was like, man, did I just waste $1,000? I think my CD deck just by itself sounds better than it does going through this DAC. But then I thought, you know what? I'm going to let this thing burn in. And so hooked my CD deck up to it. Didn't even have an amplifier turned on. I just had the CD deck going into the DAC, put it on replay, and let it run for about 12 hours. And then the next day, I came back and listened to it again, and it was like a different device. It had really nice thick bass that was just there, and the mid-range was nice and rich, and the top end sounded really crisp, and it was clearly at that point better than my CD deck. And I know people like this expectation bias and all that stuff, but it's there. So that convinced me that this burn-in thing is real. And when you get something new, you need to burn it in for a while before you start even listening to it, so you don't taint your expectation. Because like I said, I was just about ready to return it. And if I hadn't given it like that 12 hours of burn-in, I probably would have. And now I'm super happy with it. And it definitely brought my whole digital streaming thing. I got my Blue Sound Note X now USB hooked up to it. And interestingly, I think my Yamaha CD deck sounds better using the optical cable than the coax. And I know the digital heads and the measuring and stuff that's not supposed to be the case, but I have to think that there's got to be something that's translating the signal to optical and then the optical to back to a signal with the optical path, and the same thing with the coax, that it's, there's got to be some kind of a chip or something that's putting it in that one wire signal that then goes to the DAC, and that, it's a different pathway. And I think the optical sounds richer and more analog and more lifelike. And so that's something to play with too. Don't just take for a fact when people kind of blanket statements say coax is going to sound better because it's a better technology. Try both. And if you got a USB cable, try all three. I haven't yet tried the Blue Sound in the optical or the coax. I've only tried the USB. And so I need to play around with that more and, tinker around some more with my streaming setup. But I'm starting to get a lot happier with it. And I can see streaming some music that maybe I don't have in vinyl yet and see if it's something that I can really enjoy, and then play around with that. So, again, it comes back to just getting the source right. And I think a lot of it has to do with how these digital files are converted. And same thing with vinyl. I've been looking forever for the right sound from Who's Next, The Who. And yeah, guys, this moving on vinyl pressing that I found, somebody recommended it on, I think, the Steve Hoffman forum. They've got good forum for looking up like what's the best pressing of different vinyl. And a couple of people were saying, yeah, look for this Move On Vinyl brand. And it was, I think it was pressed off of a digital copy from 1995 or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what the history and all that is. But yeah, if you're looking for a good copy of Who's Next on vinyl, get that Move On Vinyl. Wow, that's amazing. It's got crispness and clarity that none of the digital files that I've been able to download sound like. My CD doesn't sound like this. Even some of these fancy modern re-releases don't sound as good as this one does. So, there's my album for the week. If you're a fan of Who's Next to Who, go look up the Move On Vinyl copy of that. So anyway, been working on my 300B project. I've got the custom-made ISO power transformer. They custom wound one for me for this project. I've just ordered one to start with, kind of for the prototype, and I've got some ideas on how I'm going to do the chassis and all that stuff. I think guessing at this $5 to $6 price point is probably where this is going to end up, using the really high quality products, and that's with no tubes. And I'm trying to work out some deals with some tube vendors on possibly being able to include some discount coupons with the amp if you buy one. So stay tuned for all that. And I think that's going to wrap up the Monday Monologue. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. And again, please send me pictures of your stuff, and also send me questions to my email, and we'll start including those in the Monday Monologue. Thanks again to you Patreon supporters, other folks that support the channel in other ways, or donations, or letting me build stuff, like this guy who sent me this ST70. We worked out a deal on that. Possibly I may build some of these for folks, but yeah, I got to figure that out, what that's going to cost. So that could be another kind of little side way of getting into some cheaper, higher power electronics, because I would have a very hard time beating the performance of this amp at this price point, even with skunky labor and stuff into it. So more about that in the future. And again, thank all you folks that are regular viewers and subscribers. Appreciate all you guys. And we will see you next week for the Monday Monologue.